So it's in here now because
Okay.
it's the virtual meeting, not the
Got it.
normal meeting.
Okay.
Tom, it is also on YouTube.
Oh.
We'll be streaming there as well. Just going live right now.
All right. Perfect. I will shoot him an email right now then.
Hey, Tom, did you send out the emails on the energy orange bag where the lady had that slideshow?
I haven't gotten it from her yet. I am still waiting on Catherine to send it to me.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. That's right. That was-
There's Mark.
I'm here. Here? Oh, you haven't asked that yet.
Present.
I found a collared shirt. Hadn't seen one for years, months. Tom, you did a good job keeping us in line. You've reminded us multiple times, got us a backed up link, sent us all of our documents. Like, good on you.
Thank you, sir. I sure appreciate it. I didn't want to let a little something like not being able to meet in person slow us down too much.
Oh, no, no.
So it's 4 o'clock. Can I go ahead and start the meeting?
Yes, sir.
You do have 2 people coming in right at the moment, 2 of your commissioners. Should be in 10 seconds. And they are here, just muted and off camera.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the City of Meridian Solid Waste Advisory Commission regular meeting for Wednesday, May 27th. It is now 1 minute after 4. And we'll start by calling roll. Indicate if you are in the meeting. Mark Nelson,
Here.
Steve Corey, present. Dave Neal, Sean Keating,
Here.
Meg Larson,
Here.
Scott Walters,
Here.
Bob Wiley,
Here.
Isabel Cow,
Here.
and ex officio members, Councilwoman Liz Strader
Here.
and Rochelle Klein. Quorum being present, we'll go ahead and move on with the items in the meeting. First is consideration of the agenda. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at it.
Mr. Chair, I would move approval of the agenda as written.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the agenda be approved as written. Are there further comments? Further comments? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote, all those in favor of approving the agenda as written signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The motion carries. Thank you. We move on then to approval of the minutes from the April 22nd meeting. Are there comments on the draft minutes or motions?
Mr. Chair, I would like to move to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the draft minutes for the April 22nd meeting as written. Are there further comments? Further comments? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote, all those in favor of approving the minutes as written signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The motion passes by voice vote. Thank you. We move on to community acknowledgements, and I really don't have anything to put into that right now. So we'll move on to program reports. And the item under program reports is Republic Services second quarter update. Conrad, take the floor.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you for your time today. It's good to see everybody after so many months. Hope everyone's doing well. You can see I'm broadcasting from my lemonade stand.
Excellent.
So today I'd like to talk about, did it work? Hold on. Okay, there we go. So for the record, my name is Conrad McDaniel with Republic Services of Idaho. And today I'd like to share with the Solid Waste Advisory Committee an update on the glass program, the hand-in-hand box located at the Meridian transfer station, the monthly charts that I prepare every month, and then the second quarter stats. I do have a note there that the second quarter included January, February, and March. And COVID really started to take off mid to late March. So you're not going to see a whole lot of effects of the COVID-19 in my report. But I guess I'll point out a few things along the way regarding to that. This slide here is starting to look pretty routine. It seems like we average one shipment of glass to Momentum Recycling in Salt Lake City for repurpose into fiberglass applications, about one shipment a quarter. Q2 was the same, where we hauled 120 cubic yards, about 34 tons. Really, you've probably seen the same exact slide in other presentations of mine, but I'll just repeat that we're seeing very clean glass at the drop site located at the Meridian transfer station. Maybe that's due to you have to make the extra effort to go out and recycle your glass. You have the person disposing of it has the control over what they're putting in there and it's not like a family free for all to the glass cart. So we're seeing a lot cleaner glass there. The residential carts for glass are often contaminated with recycled materials, paper, plastics, boxes. just people maybe confusing which cart's which. And like I said, if you have that one super recycler at the house and making that effort, that's great. But then you have other family members that maybe not be paying attention as much. So kind of still seeing that trend there. Glass recycling curbside subscription. This is an extra service we provide to residents. They would have to opt in and pay for that service on a monthly basis. I believe it was about $7 to $8 a month. And pretty similar here. We saw about 40 more set outs in Q2 than we did in Q1. The one major thing I'd like to point out is the number of subscribers. I believe in my last report to you, I mentioned that we saw a jump in Q1 of subscribers to 194. This was not correct. It was embarrassingly enough, a double counting on my end. See, glass is picked up every 4 weeks. And so sometimes that means you only have one collection for the month. Other times you might have one collection plus half of a week, just because of the way the 4 weeks roll out. And so I didn't look close enough, and I reported a higher number of 194 when actually I was double counting that extra 44 customers. So Q1, to correct the record there, it was pretty close, within 1 or 2 subscribers of what it is now. I think that's all I have on glass. Any questions at this point?
Conrad, I have a question. On those residential carts that are contaminated, so what happens to the glass when it's received? Does it still end up being processed for recycling, even though it's contaminated, or?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Larson, I think. I don't have all the bases.
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks for the question. So it depends load by load. If the curbside glass collection is dumped out and it's combined with the drop-off stuff, but first it's dumped out at the transfer station in its own pile. And if it's deemed to be too dirty, it's landfilled. If it's salvageable, then the salvageable parts go in with the drop site glass. That's generally pretty clean. But yeah, it's really load to load. If 1 week, if it's just way too contaminated, and that's up to the supervisor there at the transfer station to determine if it needs landfilled or if it can be saved.
Thank you.
Conrad,
Yes.
this is Tom, by the way. So would you say that we've seen kind of a leveling off now, where we're getting pretty consistent with the amount of glass customers we have?
Yeah, I would say it's held between 145 subscribers to up to 155 subscribers year round since the program began late 2018 now. Yeah, it was October 2018, if I remember correctly. It jumped right out of the gate with 120, 130 subscribers, and add a few, and it's leveled off for the last year plus.
Perfect, thank you.
I will continue. Okay, so we have what's called hand-in-hand public recycling box for the community to drop off their large cardboard items for recycling, refrigerator boxes, TV boxes, or maybe someone that lives in an apartment and that apartment complex doesn't offer recycling. The public's welcome to access this and recycle their cardboard. And you can see the amount of hauls and tons collected, and there's just been, it's not just for COVID. I mean, this year compared to previous years, it's really taken off. And maybe that's growth, maybe it's more people knowing that service is available, but it's being used more and more every quarter. And so far it's over $1,200 for the year, and we're halfway in. And I don't know if they've collected $1,200 worth in any one solid year of time. So it's really off to a good start, and that's with bad recycling market prices. So doing really good, looking good there. You can see in March, the hauls 17, and that's quite a bit more. Again, it's easy to say that would be COVID related, but at that time, people haven't received their stimulus checks yet, and social distancing, that was all just starting to take place. So I think it has a lot to do with growth of the city, people moving in, and also realizing that service is available to them. I would also mention back to the glass, we did notice in April an increase of wine bottles being dropped off.
Tom, this is Commissioner Walters. I have a question for you, or excuse me. Is it primarily cardboard anymore that's going into hand in hand?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Walters, it is. And I believe it was maybe a year ago, it was made strictly cardboard. It used to be when it first started to have, you can see the different holes in the box there. And so the idea was to have a section for cardboard, section for paper and plastics and so on. And with the low amount of plastics and cans and paper that you would collect versus the amount of bulkiness that cardboard takes up, and just it's cleaner and more valuable, it was made to become a cardboard only box, and it's better revenue that way as well.
Thank you.
Okay, here are the monthly charts, and it looks like it's all visible there on the screen. There's a projection of curbside recycled tons, and it's a projection based on what we've collected so far year to date, using an average from 2019. And you can see there we're slightly above where we were at where we finished in 2019, which is a good sign, because if you look at 2017, we announced the recycling restrictions, specifically on plastics. And as expected, we saw volumes drop as people didn't recycle their plastics, but they were also kind of frustrated with the new guidelines. And so we saw the dip, but as people are getting more comfortable, we're seeing that tonnage coming back up. Here is another projection on the cost to process those recycled tons. And as I mentioned, in 2017 was the green fence, green sword from China. And from that date on, it was just free fall pricing and processing costs. Well, it looks like, I don't, knock on wood, it looks like the bleeding may have slowed down, maybe not quite plateaued or hit rock bottom, but it appears to be leveling off, and maybe that's a sign that it's not going to get much worse here in the near future. Now here's a cost per ton. This is actual average, so it's not a projection. This is actual average of cost per ton for the year. Excuse me. And it actually did get better if going back to my last presentation for these reports. I think it was -101. So we're right there at -100. And I think last month it improved by 50 cents to $1. So you're starting to see the price not free fall, but instead actually maybe improved by 25, 50 cents to $1 each month, long ways to go, but at least that free fall seems to have stopped. And here's a look at the paper pricing market. Oh, we can't see the whole thing. But I believe there's copies of these slides, or they are mailed out to the SWAC chairman every month. And basically at the right-hand side there, paper's real close to zero. In fact, domestically and locally here, it's still under zero. Foreign markets have the price a little bit over zero, but you can see that they're slowly but surely looking like they're getting better. Cardboard has traditionally done better than paper, and aside from aluminum, it does better than most recycling. But you can see this bottomed out towards the end of 2019 and has gradually gotten better with every month in 2020. And all three markets here locally, West Coast and overseas, it's getting stronger by the month. I'm hoping that continues. Here is a projection of cost of the Household Hazardous Waste Program. That is the weekly public drop site at the Meridian transfer station. This one was actually in 2020 on pace to be comparable to 2019, but now you can see there's a drop, and this would be COVID-19 related, because in April we stopped, well, Stericycle stopped collection of the household hazardous waste remote sites. So that would include the one that's stationed on Mondays at the Meridian transfer station. And there was no collection during that month, but they did hire an employee to stand there and inform customers that showed up that they will not be taking hazardous waste for the month of April. It's my understanding it's open now, and it'll be interesting to see if all that material comes back at once, or if it's kind of a gradual pace where people start bringing that stuff in again. Any questions to this point? Okay, so this is now focused on the second quarter of 2020, which would include January, February, and March. Recycle tons. We saw an increase in curbside recycle tons, which is a very exciting sign, and hopefully it continues. Like I said, at the end of 2017 was the announcement of the Green Sword and the recycling restrictions, and since then we've seen tons drop. Not at a free fall like the pricing, but they did drop, and this is one of the first signs of it coming back. You can see in Q1 it's about even, and that's probably about how we finished in Q1. So it's good to see Q2 actually increase by 11 tons when compared to what it did in the same period of 2019. However, household pounds did decrease by 1.5 per household, which is something I've been seeing. It's just we're getting extra tons from the growth, but maybe people are being more careful of what they're putting in their recycling. I have seen the contamination levels drop at Western to even under 10%. Sometimes it's more, but it always makes me happy to see that when it's reported under 10% contamination. That's still a long ways to go, but it's a good sign.
Hey, Conrad.
Yeah.
Do you think part of that tonnage reduction could be how much lighter the material we're recycling is getting?
Yeah, Tom, good point. There has been manufacturing changes all across any segment of manufacturing and packaging, and things just do get lighter. Not to mention services and things are consumed or transactions made online. And it's just, yeah, there's just less and it's lighter. It's a good point.
Thank you.
This is Bob Wiley. I don't have a color code on my screen that I'm looking at. So I don't know what is blue and what is orange or that yellowish color.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Bob, thank you very much for pointing that out. I meant to make a note to everyone about that. Blue is the year 2019 and orange is 2020.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, I apologize. I meant to point that out, but thank you. And curbside trash is 18% increase from 2019, which is at first glance it's large, and it's also easy to say that's COVID-19 and people staying at home. Well, yeah, some of it, but again, only 2 weeks of the 12 weeks of the quarter were potentially quarantined because of COVID-19. I think it's more so growth and consumption and that time of year where people are I don't know what the weather was compared to last year, but more people out spring cleaning and getting things taken care of like that. I'll note that when you compare 2018 second quarter to 2019 second quarter, there was a 10.5% increase. So the 18, although higher, it's not uncommon. Okay, so for commercial and industrial, it's all increases all across the board. So you can see the shutdown has, in this report, has not shown any effects. We'll see what Q3 looks like. But here, commercial trash and recycling are up, industrial trash and recycling are up. And transfer station reception, so this is all waste received at the Meridian transfer station. Just under 10% increase, and that's really common, what I've been seeing every quarter. And you can even see there, Q1 looks like the same delta as Q2. It's just the volume and growth that we're seeing. That's pretty typical of what I've noticed. In Q3 and Q4, I'll probably have to change the access to allow more than 70,000 tons. Yeah, here's interesting, and again, this is not COVID related because hazardous waste collection resumed in March. They didn't stop collecting until April, so this would include a full month of March. And you can see we have back-to-back quarters of a decrease. In Q2 is 179 less visitors and 2 tons less collected. So I thought that was interesting. I'm starting to see that dip down more and more, if not level. But yeah, not the surging collection weight that we've seen in the past.
Conrad, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So related to household hazardous waste, we were hoping someday that those numbers would start to drop because the number of CRTs and old TV technology would stop going to the process. Do these numbers exclude electronic waste?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Nelson, thank you for the question. They would include electronics or monitors. Oh boy, now pop quiz. I think it's less than 17-inch monitors. So they only, at these drop sites, they only accept really small monitors to begin with.
Okay.
That is a possibility, as the smaller kitchen TVs that we used to have, those have all come in. I'm guessing, I don't know, but a lot of people that have flat screens, now those are starting to go out as they bought them 10 years ago. And maybe they've bought 2 or 3 versions of them. But as those start to go out, those are landfilled.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That concludes my report. Any other questions, Mr. Chair and Commissioners?
Commissioners, any questions?
I have a comment. The transfer station moved the glass recycling containers from where they were across the road. And when they place them in there where they are now, the low side of the container is up against the bank. So if you're carrying a container of glass, which might be heavy, you got to kind of go up that soft dirt bank to get to the low side to be able to tip your container. It would be good if they can move it a little bit away from that bank.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wiley, thank you for pointing that out. I'm not familiar with how they've modified that, but I will email the supervisor and have him take a look and see if there is an easier spot for customers to use that drop site and for the employees to operate around it safely.
They only have to move it maybe 2 feet, same orientation, just 2 feet away from the bank.
Okay. He might not even realize that it's been adjusted by 2 feet. So I'll point that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Conrad. We'll go ahead and move on in the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Good to see everyone again.
Thank you, Conrad.
Thank you, Conrad.
You look good.
You too.
That completes the program reports, and we move on to 7 action items. First is old business, and of that, first item is a spring cleanup update. Tom, I think you're going to go ahead and catch us up on this.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I just wanted to let everyone know that spring cleanup is occurring this year. Though we did have to delay it a month, it is now occurring June 1st through the 5th. So we have broadcast that out for about the last 4 weeks after the decision was approved by the mayor's office. We've been actually getting really positive feedback on it. We're going to have our live event tomorrow. So if you want to tune in at noon on Facebook and I think Instagram, but I'm never sure with social media. As everybody knows, I'm not particularly savvy with that. That live event's taking place. We will have Gary Packwood, our most requested resident expert from Republic Services, also assisting with that event again this year. He was given rave reviews last year. So spring cleanup is happening again June 1st to the 5th. The rules are the same as every year, and we're looking forward to good participation again this year.
How was that communicated out?
A whole bunch of ways. It was if you had a phone number on file with MUBs, with Meridian Utility Billing, it was there was a voice message sent out and a text message sent out to cell phone users. It was put in the bill insert. It was on Nextdoor. It was on Facebook, and it was on Instagram. It was also there's one other way, and I don't remember what that was. There was a press release as well. So it was broadcast in every way we are capable of broadcasting.
Well, I received. My wife pays the bill, so I might have missed the one in the bill, but I didn't see anything in the newspaper or any communication went out, and I read pretty much everything.
I will try to find a different way to get it. I'm not sure our capability to advertise in Meridian Press, just due to our fairly small advertising budget. It was also updated on the city website. I meant to say that one as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I had a question.
Councilwoman Strader, go ahead.
Yes, I was curious. This is the first year that my household is participating, and I just had a question to clarify. When people sign up on the Trash Talk link on the website, does that automatically schedule the bulk pickup with Republic, or does that have to be done separately as a separate step?
Thank you, Mr. Council Administrator, Mr. Chair. It actually does automatically schedule you. Every Friday, I send an updated list to Republic to get those scheduled. It's just a way to make it a little bit easier on our citizens. We also, this year, actually, we are also allowing people to schedule bulk item collection on our website and not sign up for Trash or Treasure if they're choosing not to participate. That way we can take a little bit of the burden off of Republic right now, who's seeing extremely high call volume, and make it a little bit easier on people to learn what the rules are, sign up right at the same time. But if they choose not to participate in Trash or Treasure, they can still sign up for bulk item collection.
Great, thanks.
Further questions or comments on the spring cleanup update? Very good. We'll move on to the second item, which is Trash or Treasure update, which we've actually had a little bit of information on. But Tom, if you want to expand on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Our Trash or Treasure event, which is our most popular event to date, is also happening again this year. I'm happy to report, after being delayed roughly 4 weeks, very similarly to spring cleanup, Trash or Treasure is happening on the 30th and 31st of May this year. So far, we've got in the low 200s of participants that have signed up, which is lower than last year, but that is to be expected since, we were locked down for quite a while and people probably aren't too hip to be going out and walking around all over the place. But the event is happening. The rules are the exact same as last year. It is once again taking place the weekend prior to spring cleanup to make the removal of non-treasured items easier on each household. And we advertise that in our same way we always do. We are having our live event, like I said, tomorrow, which will cover spring cleanup and Trash or Treasure. So if there are any last minute questions that residents have, we will be answering at our live event.
Okay, if I may translate that, that means that Trash or Treasure is this weekend.
Yes, that too.
Commissioners, any questions or comments for Tom's discussion about Trash or Treasure? Thank you, Tom. Move on to the third item, which is recycle a bicycle update. Tom, I don't know if you had a chance to follow through. I can't remember if we assigned a liaison at a previous meeting or not.
Mr. Chair, the last I saw was that Commissioner Walters was going to be working on that for the commission this year.
I think we had a few other volunteers.
I believe so.
I think Sean may have reached out. I'll be participating. Is that still also a go?
Where we're at, I was going to say where we're at this point is no date has been selected or item to go ahead and tag to. But I did want to go ahead and make sure my memory was right, that before we canceled it, we'd already set up kind of a subcommittee liaison group. And so with that, I want to go ahead and slide it back to comments from Scott or Mark on that.
Go ahead,
Well,
Mr.
Well, I think our last discussion was we were just trying to find a new appropriate public event that we could kind of hang our head on this year. That's keeping in mind that in the past we had St. Luke's donating helmets, and the police were there doing some bicycle training, those sorts of things. And so it wasn't just us by ourselves, although I think we had the right event, we could do our part. But I can't off the top of what events we were talking about. What other public events are out there on the forefront this summer?
You know, we had hoped maybe there'd be the Public Works Expo, but that has been canceled for the year. And then Dairy Days, but that's been canceled for the year. I suppose we could do a little bit of look at 4th of July and see if there's anything going on there. That might be the first public event. But as Tom has mentioned, we don't have to be tied to an event. We can go ahead and put together something that's standalone, but it would require that additional effort to try to coordinate with St. Luke's and the police department for those additional activities that occur.
Mr. Chair, I have a suggestion, and that would be that if we could get something going prior to the school year taking off next fall, it might be a benefit to some of the children that don't have bicycles that could then use them. So if we can, I can talk with Mark and Sean, and we can kind of try and come up with something that would be appropriate towards the end of August, early September, perhaps.
And I don't know if we can answer this question without Rochelle, but if there is a backup plan for a way to distribute bicycles, which I believe Republic has on hand in some other way, absent an event. I think, large kind of crowded public events are unlikely this summer. I mean, I don't know City of Meridian specific plans, but I know for example, in the paper, McCall today canceled its fireworks celebration. And I think, as Commissioner pointed out, if we're trying to maybe get the bicycles distributed before school starts, we might want to talk with Rochelle if there's some way to distribute them by appointment on a certain day, at the transfer station or something like that in the absence of a public event. We have the bicycles, getting the people to sign up online, and then just connecting the two that way without, it would be a shame not to have the helmets and not to have the police there and the slamming all the tires and so forth, but I'm not sure how realistic an event is this summer.
I agree. I recall that Rochelle said that we could use their site, the transfer station site, to do something like you're suggesting. We just have to be very controlled.
Yeah, and I think we could do some different things. And in the past, we get up to 20 folks or so that would sign up on the website and then give us their size and girl or boy and that sort of thing. And we try to find the most appropriate bikes for those users. And then, but we had an open-ended time frame, a 2-hour block, 2 or 3 hours for people to kind of come at their leisure. And we might have to change that up, and maybe we call people back and coordinate a couple families every 15 minutes rather than, because that's what would happen is we'd have 20 minutes and no one's there, and then they'd all show up at once. So maybe you kind of plan to spread that out better.
Include a curbside pickup time.
Yeah.
Right. And
Right.
But I think even if a couple of families showed up at once, that would be manageable versus, an event with 1,000 people at it is I just don't think it's very likely.
Yeah.
And maybe St. Luke's would be willing to provide, 20 helmets in assorted sizes or something that we could hand out or something like
Yeah, I
that.
think we could still put together those 3 entities that would be, I would expect to be willing to participate. I say on behalf of coordinate.
Just to offer an idea, I'm very active with the Meridian Lions. And the Meridian Lions will not have the rodeo this year because of the event. And a lot of the clubs that do goodwill in the area, Kiwanis, for example, and Lions, now don't have a lot of our annual and traditional events. So we have a lot of people that are accustomed to donating their time and services to the community. They just have to have something to do. So if there's a way where we can incorporate them as volunteers, I believe that they would be eager to assist.
Great idea.
Yes, thank you.
Additional comments or questions on the Recycle a Bicycle project?
Well, I guess my question is just kind of what is the next step for the subcommittee or something I would think, get with Republic and pick a couple of dates over the summer that are an option to distribute bikes at the transfer station. I don't know.
Mark and Scott, are you comfortable with that? Working with Rochelle and seeing if you can come up with a good time and venue?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have to meet with Rochelle with either by email or face to face, and that was one of my questions. In fact, talking about that, the volunteer with Mark, we talked about that a while ago to set up bikes and fix them. So I was going to talk to if that was still going on and how that is. So with that, Mark, this week, or I think it was, try to set up a time with her, and I can email you guys about that.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's have as a big plan that you guys report back to us at next month's meeting, unless there's something that it's coming up quickly within a few weeks, and then email us and we'll go ahead and get that out to all the commissioners so they know what's going on. But if you're kind of looking at an August timeframe, then reporting next month will be timely.
Will do.
All right.
Further comments or questions on Recycle a Bicycle? Very good. We'll go ahead and move on. That completes the old business action items, and we'll move on to the new business action item, which is the SWAC subcommittee update. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This update will actually be from the chair of our subcommittee, Commissioner Nelson.
Excellent.
Thanks, Tom. So we did, of course, miss a few meetings, and then we have kind of resurrected virtual meetings. So we've met 2 weeks ago, and we meet again tomorrow. But I think we're making good progress, and Tom is super motivated and helping us get organized and documented. But we are truly trying to get something documented in a way that we can present back to this body at our next, what month is this, May? So in June, or before, actually, start getting some information out to the entire SWAC on kind of where we're at.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
other Mr. Chair, sorry, full commission, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
just to add on to Commissioner Nelson's comments, about 50% of the structure for the plan was voted on and approved by the subcommittee. At our meeting tomorrow, it is estimated that we will complete the other 50%. I will then have a concise abstract of what those pillars are submitted, emailed to you, and for your dissemination to the full commission, so that we can avoid quorum issues. Just so everyone knows, if we send an email out, we can't have an email string back and forth, because if we send it to the full commission, that could be constituted as quorum, and that would be action items and quorum. So we can't discuss that as a group. So if you have individual questions, that is just fine, but please don't reply all on those emails, because then we could have some quorum issues, and we haven't posted for meetings. But you should be getting something probably 2 to 3 business days after our subcommittee meeting with what are the plan pillars. And then it is the intent of myself and the subcommittee chair to present the findings to the full commission in June, and then to shortly thereafter our June meeting be able to present those findings to the council for verification. Well, let me rephrase. Excuse me, I got ahead of myself. We will then request that the full commission review and recommend our findings and what we've determined to be the plan pillars, and make a recommendation on whether or not we will present those to council. There we go, skipped a step. And then it would be the goal of the subcommittee chair and myself to present the plan pillars that are recommended by the commission to city council, to make sure that we are meeting the expectations of council, and that our plan is what they expect, so that we can move on to the full meting out of the plan to present the full plan to city council later on in the year.
Members of the commission, do you have any questions or comments on what's been discussed as far as the solid waste plan?
I think we're on track.
Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman.
Yeah, that sounds like a good game plan, and I'm not sure in previously if you all would typically loop the mayor in at some point before presenting to council. But if not, I mean, I'm also happy to help facilitate and maybe run some highlights by him as well. Either way, though, I think it'll be great. And if I have any feedback, I would be very happy to review the initial email of what you're putting together.
Thank you. I appreciate that offer. Further comments or questions? Thank you. I think I can say we look forward to your draft report. With that, that completes the action items that are on the agenda and allows us to move on to the next meeting, would be June 24th. We'll see how things progress with COVID, and hopefully, well, at least we can get together somehow on that date. I've identified on here that, of course, we'll have the staff update on statistics at that meeting. And I believe we may actually start looking at some of the information on the fee structure for the upcoming year during that meeting. I'm not sure what, and of course we'll have a update on anything that comes together for Recycle a Bicycle, maybe a report on what happens during spring cleanup and Trash or Tracer. But that doesn't mean if there isn't anything else that's of interest to the commission that we can't put it in there. So as always, if you have subjects you want us to go ahead and consider, make sure you get them to myself or Tom, and we'll get them on the agenda unless anyone's got anything more to add in relationship to the next meeting. I'll take that as a no for right now. And so with that, we've completed all of our work on the agenda, and I will go ahead and declare the meeting adjourned at 4:50. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.